WWDC Keynote Analysis, Part 2. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Go to hellofresh.com/MacVoices16 and use code MacVoices16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. Today's MacVoices is supported by Kolide. Kolide ensures only secure devices can access your cloud apps. It's zero trust, tailor-made for Okta. Book a demo today at kolide.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is a MacVoices live session. This is part 2, the second part of our Worldwide Developer Keynote reaction. The first part was in the last episode of MacVoices, and it was taped on Monday night after the keynote. This show was recorded at our normal time, Tuesday night, and that gave us another 24 hours or so to get more information, flesh out our understanding of what Apple has announced, and give a little more thought to where things are going. So that's why you'll see what you see. You'll also notice, though, that we decided to forego some of the normal editing and lower thirds and all. We just dove right into this because there's so much to talk about. We'll be talking about it for weeks and weeks, but we wanted to get this out to you as quickly as possible. So with that, let's go back and let the MacVoices Live panel have at it. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is MacVoices Live. This is actually a special MacVoices Live. We're doing it at our normal time of 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. We are in the chat room at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We hope you're there too. And of course, if you are there, you can also be watching us as well as hearing us and chatting with us. I said this is a special edition because last night, Monday night, the night of the WWDC keynote, we did the first of our 2 WWDC keynote analysis shows. Tonight is the second one. So we're going to try to continue some of the discussions we had last night, pick up some new ones, and just keep on rolling. So if you are here, great. If not, this will come out in the feed. I do want to say just a quick piece about yesterday's show and today's show to try to make sure these get out as soon as we possibly can get them out and get you the information. I'm foregoing some of the usual editing. I'm foregoing some of the usual lower thirds and everything. You know these guys. Hopefully you love them all. So everything will return next time around. But for these shows, in the interest of rapidity, that's why we're doing what we're doing. So no change to the format, just a little, it may look a little different. With that, David Ginsburg, Ben Roethig, let's see, Eric Bolden, Jim Ray, Jeff Gamet, and Brian Flanigan-Arthurs are here. And we're going to have a little fun continuing our discussion of the announcements of WWDC. And I thought I would start it, as we sort of left off with the Apple Vision Pro yesterday. Now, though, it's 24 hours later, and a whole lot of journalists have had their opportunities to get their hands actually on it and experience it. And I think all of us were probably hanging on every word they put out there. It's my impression from their impressions is that it was quite a surprise at how really good it is, and everybody seemed to come away impressed. Ben is out there shaking his head rapidly, so before he hurts himself, Ben, do you agree with that assessment? And what was your take on what their take was?
Well, my take is that everybody's first impressions during the keynote demo have a lot of validity. Every video, every article I have seen on this says it is incredibly polished, much more so than any other VR AR system on the market. And I'm hearing a lot of excitement about Vision and Vision OS.
Anybody want to add to that based on what they've read?
Yeah, no, I would say the same thing. I know some pundits that did say it feels heavy and made them feel a little nauseous. But then others said they absolutely loved it, and it was just one of the amazing experiences. You could tell that most of the bloggers, journalists, whatever you want to call them, were very disappointed they couldn't film in the Apple location. They were, they all said that we only got 30 minutes with it. We couldn't film anything, so they put mock pictures up, and but overall, seems like it's got a good positive vibe. It's a long way to go here on this device, guys and gals. We have to understand that this is a very beta item, and it's version 1. And I think it'll die down pretty quickly, and then we'll start hearing about it next year when it's ready to be for prime time.
Yeah,
David. To be fair, I'm not even sure I'd consider it a beta. At this point, I mean, it's almost
version 1.0.
It's a version, or excuse me, it's beyond proof of concept, but it feels like from the descriptions, it's somewhere between an alpha and a beta. I don't know. And I'm splitting hairs. I realize that.
Yeah.
Kelly Guimont has joined us too, down in the corner. Kelly, good to have you.
Very nice to be here.
Okay. Want to make sure your mic was working. Yeah, I think it's, it's interesting. I have to tell you, there are times that some of this stuff bugs me just a little bit. Not that I expect everybody to just enthuse over everything, but it seemed like there's always somebody that wants to pick on it just a little bit about, about, I guess, even the concept. Because there were a couple of things I read that, this is great, and it works from what they were able to do pretty much as advertised, but they're, kind of complaining about the singular experience of, using this thing. And I don't know, that bothered me a little bit, because I feel like using my Mac is a singular experience. I mean, it's not very often that somebody is looking over my shoulder at my Mac at what I'm doing, or even more so on my iPad or my phone. So if we're talking about entertainment, yeah, maybe that's a legitimate comment. But if we're talking about anything else, I felt like that wasn't quite the case.
I am looking forward to when what's a good way to come into this? Okay, right now, everyone is riding the hype wave, whether you're all about Vision Pro or you think it's a bad idea. Doesn't matter. We have a big hype wave happening. What I want to see is what people are saying after we get over that love or hate adrenaline rush, and we see how this is really being used. Because right now, so much of the focus is on this as a comparison to like HoloLens or VR headsets. And this is absolutely not that, although you can do things like that with this. This is more like someone figured out in the Apple labs, how can you take a MacBook Pro and tape it to your face and make it work? So, we're talking a whole new computing device. And when we see, assuming it's successful, gains traction, when we start seeing how this is being used in professional settings, because I think that's one of the places where this will shine, that's going to be really cool. Or it's going to be disappointing because it doesn't get adopted by these markets. But this is what I'm waiting for. All of the hype right now, because this is like a bonkers crazy device. Great. Let's talk about what this is after people are like really getting into it.
Right. Yeah. Actually having
Let's talk about this once a reasonable number of people have actually gotten their faces on one.
Right.
Because, not your hands, right? Let's see what happens when it gets out into the world. And, I know at least a goodly portion of this panel has been, this is not our first rodeo with Apple came out with a thing And now you can read like the only difference now I think is scale, because we got so many hot takes about the iPod. We got so many hot takes about the iPhone. We got, and like the order of magnitude is different now than it used to be. That's true. But this is the same thing as before. Apple's done it again. This is the greatest success that Apple has ever successed, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the people who are saying like the photo negative of that. There's no way this is a thing that will be successful. Apple has made a completely ludicrous and senseless decision that nobody seems to be able to understand. Yeah, nobody. That's why it's out now. That's why they've announced. That's why they're confident enough in this one that they announced it and showed it to people. So, like, I know that we've all heard all of this before. So I'm kind of with Jeff. Like, honestly, the two things about this that I want are, finally people can stop talking about the rumors about Apple's melon farming headset, and also that I'm still waiting, because not enough people have seen it, not enough people have gotten to try out a number of things with it, and until that dies down and people can talk about anything else, like, this is the conversation that people are apparently going to have, and I'm waiting to see where it comes in from an accessibility standpoint. I'm waiting to see where it comes in from an interaction standpoint, because, like I said, yesterday, it felt like a lot of the design teams all played musical chairs in the last 12 to 18 months, because that thing that's new on the Mac is a thing that we know from the iPhone, and that thing that's new on the watch is a thing that we got from the Mac, and that thing that we got on the iPad that's new and awesome, came from someplace else. And so, like, we've kind of had this, like, if this is new to this platform, but it's not necessarily new to users. And I think, some more of that same sort of interaction influence is going to start coming down the pike with other things. And knowing that, we've got now kind of a track record of Apple with accessibility. Like they pulled it out. It used to be like 4 menus deep in iOS, and now it's like a top level menu item where you can go and choose different things. And we got the wave of interactive. Time is weird, so I can't remember if it was last spring or spring before, but somewhere around like a recognized accessibility, I don't know if it was day or week or something, they added new gestures to the watch, and some of that stuff looked really familiar in the video of the Vision Pro, of the WandaVision. That's right, I decided it was WandaVision yesterday. The WandaVision movements of people's hands and things all sort of looked like stuff that we saw in like the videos for, if you're using accessibility features for your watch. These are the ways that you can interact if you can't get your fingers to the screen. You have these other options available to you. So I'm wanting to see what it's going to look like then, like once some people have had a chance to spend some time with it and then be able to develop for it. I think that's going to be the most interesting thing. But for right now, like, honestly, I'm just relieved, because I feel like we're going to get the wave of Apple's making a headset, go away, and that's going to be great. But we've seen all this before, and the other big part of that is that it's going to end up being a thing that nobody's really going to be able to tell anything about until next year, because I think they said early 2024. So we are a solid 6 months away from any number of people being able to get their hands on it in a way that's going to make it something meaningful for any of us to get a chance to really see how it looks, how it behaves, how, what it weighs. Is Apple going to start selling pockets so that I can carry that battery around, because I unfortunately wear women's pants? I have a lot of questions that aren't going to get answered anytime soon.
Eric, my sense is that so many of these folks, the ones who gushed on it and the ones who gushed against it, or downplayed it a little, they're all kind of seeing it, and maybe this is something we all do too, and I'm probably as guilty as the next guy, that they're seeing it through their particular use case, their particular lens. And I feel like we all need to just expand our minds a little bit, especially in a device like this that appears to be so new in so many ways. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, actually, that's a good way of looking at it. I think that there are a lot of people out there that are excited about it and really want to both use it and do something else with it, develop for it, whatever, but the cost is the only thing setting them back. But that's happened before. And, then everybody gets together, buys a bunch of headsets or buys a bunch of, tape decks or whatever it is and puts them together in a, some sort of collaborative effort where you could check it out, kind of like airplane clubs, where, a club gets together and buys 2 or 3 airplanes and you could fly around the US. In this case, you're buying headsets, about the same. So I think the only thing really holding Apple back was the fact that they couldn't broadly tell everybody about this. Now they've done it. And the time frame between now and when they actually have a few products that people will be able to buy, and then the time before you can, more broadly afford to buy it, there's enough time there that I think there'll be a lot of really, really interesting things. For me, I would love to see the ability to do color adjustments, so I could get feedback on colors and what I'm looking at, since there's so many of them I can't really see. I think that would be really cool. I'm really curious to see how many people actually have to get a lens adjustment to get it to work. Or if, because I'm assuming you can do some adjustments just with what's there. So for some people, maybe you don't have to do anything at all. But if you have to do a whole lot of stuff, switching between different users, how involved is that? I've got someone at work who has no depth perception, and she really just wanted to know, well, can you use the interface if you have no depth perception? I don't know, and then she thought, well, if it has the ability to see relative distances, if you go and tell her, what things are in front and behind in something she's looking at, that could be really helpful. So yeah, there's a lot that's going to come out.
One thing, Kelly alluded to it, and I don't think it's a big deal. In fact, Mark Gurman did a tweet, I think it was today, that said that the 2-hour battery life was one of the, I forget what he said, but basically it was one of the most unimportant parts of the keynote, because his iMac is plugged in all the time. And so I thought that was an interesting perspective on it. And again, he's viewing it like I would view it, that this is a productivity tool. I'm not going to be wandering around my backyard, watching a movie. I'm going to be, sitting here and probably using it. There are times it would be nice, airplane flights, for example, to be able to have supportability. But I got to thinking that maybe portability is not that big a deal. Webb, you have any thoughts on that? Because I think you would probably look at this maybe in a similar vein to the way I would look at it.
Yeah. First of all, good evening.
By the way,
sorry, it's a little late.
By the way, Webb Bixby is here. Sorry. Yes, thank you, Webb.
Yeah. So since I kind of came in, I don't know if I understand the full point of the question, but maybe I look at this a little bit differently. I still go back. It's a first-gen product. 2-hour battery life is not that important to me. I'll probably be pretty close to some way to keep the thing powered up. So here again, I think as future iterations go, this reminds me so much of the Apple Watch. Remember the first Apple Watch was the Apple Watch 0. It wasn't even the 1. That one compared to, this is my third one. This is a 7, I think, is the the one that I have right now, and I like it. This one is so much better than the first one that I had. And I'm viewing the Vision Pro as the same thing. It's interesting. It's probably the reason why I probably won't buy it, just because I don't need to be the early adopter on this one at $3,500. So I don't know if that answers the whole question, but that's kind of my thoughts on the issue.
Yeah, again, we're all seeing it through our own lenses.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, oh yeah, I didn't even hear it. I did it, and I didn't even hear it, Kelly. Sorry about that.
Hey, when you can make it effortless, that's even better. The thing I was alluding to was more just like I think it's interesting that it appears anyway to be completely wireless, because I'm not sure if the other ones are. I don't spend a lot of time with the other kinds of headsets, so I don't know if any of the other ones are plug it into a battery, that you carry around with you so that you can be disconnected from whatever. I don't know if they will, allow you to plug into a wall, but I think like if that is a thing that other headsets will do, they make you be hooked to a computer, hooked to a PlayStation. I know PlayStation has one. That kind of thing, then this being wireless is also just a way to differentiate. But I don't think it's a big deal for a bunch of reasons. Number one, what limited experience I have with VR headsets, I know that I don't want to wear them more than a couple of hours at a time, because I start feeling a little motion sick and kind of off center after a long time with that. And also that we know the battery life is going to get better and better anyway. That's just
maybe even by the time the product launches.
Right. I mean, and Apple even, and if it's let's say it's just a USB-C cable out of the back of it, who's to say you have to buy the Apple official battery? If you want to wear a backpack and have one of those monster things that you can use to power your house in case the power goes out or something, then, power to you, literally. See, I just did it and didn't realize it either. But I think, that's the so far down the list of concerns I have, because whatever battery life it has now is just going to improve, and we know that because that's one of the things Apple does. I've been on this show forever banging on about Apple and why is nobody talking about how the battery life is so much better? The battery is improved. Look at the ways that they've engineered the battery so that you get another hour or 3 or whatever out of it. So that part is really not surprising to me, and I don't know why people are worked up about it.
Yeah, but you know what, Kelly? It bugs me too that people refuse to look at things. And I mean, Apple has done some serious magic with the phones and with the laptops, battery wise. Yeah. And people refuse. People just, it's got a battery and it's going to be so heavy, and I got to carry it around. And it's like, wake up, people. But, I mean, the battery,
the other ones, it's on the head. Your neck is what's carrying that around. And now all of a sudden you're wearing a 10-pound pair of glasses. No, that's not a thing. And so getting the big, getting the second, I don't know how the percentages break out, but I feel like whatever the glass is going to be the biggest portion of weight, and then because it's glass, and then second is going to be power, and you're going to have that no matter what. Every headset needs the thing that goes across your face, and every headset needs some sort of power source, whatever those things are. So, I feel like people worked up about that are just looking for nits to pick.
I feel
it's lighter than the Quest.
Yeah. Ben, hang on a second. I want to do a better job than I did last night of getting the chat room in, because there's some good comments here, and then I'll come back to you. Cleta says, Kelly, I remember when iPad came out, I was like, why do I need this? What's it going to be used for? 6 to 18 months later, Barry says the story Apple told when introducing Vision Pro seemed very deliberately crafted to emphasize that it wasn't an isolating device. And I agree with that, to the point that a set of goggles can be a non-isolating device. And Cletus again says, I'd like more battery life, but it has time. I'm more mobile. Of course, I'm an electrician. Power shouldn't be an issue. Good point, Cletus. Ben, sorry, go right ahead.
I feel like a lot of the criticism on this is people expecting the device what it's going to be in 3 to 5 years as a finished product, not what it is at the very beginning.
Yeah. Let's talk about the
Remember
first
when the
iPad for a
iPhone
minute.
didn't have copy and paste?
iPhone didn't have copy and paste.
Or
The first iPhone didn't have applications. It wasn't until the third iPhone that you could shoot video. The first iPad shipped with no camera whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like everybody's talking about 3.0.
Are you sure?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it did not.
The first iPad.
No camera.
Yeah, it did, because I remember
Okay.
people saying nobody's going to walk around with a camera.
Yeah.
Not the first generation. Second or third did, but not the first one.
Yeah, not the
Yeah.
first.
Really?
I mean,
Really? Because
the
I
first
remember looking at it and going, why would you get that a camera? And they absolutely did not. And then the second one was like, it has a camera. You're welcome. Yeah.
Well, I remember when whenever they did add the camera, people were like, that's the stupidest thing ever. Who's going to use a camera on this thing? And I've definitely seen people in the wild with shooting with the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And there are lots of reasons to use. I mean, I used an iPad as a camera for a long time at CES and NAB for mainly one big reason, and that is the battery. There's battery and storage.
Yeah.
So,
and it's got a nice viewfinder.
It's got a great viewfinder.
Exactly. Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, but the first one had no camera, so people, and I remember, a lot like Cletus, like what is anybody going to do with this? I remember seeing potential in it, and really wondering, once you give this to people, how everybody's going to adapt it to the thing that they want to be able to do with it. And that's what I'm waiting to see with this. But yeah, like the first iPad didn't have a camera. You didn't have copy and paste. You didn't have apps. You didn't have folders. There were so many things that I think we forget. And, let's talk about 1.0, right? Remember when the first iPhone came out? Remember that cute little guy and how he had those little itty bitty icons and he was so adorable and nothing came in a retina display. And the rest of the world took one look at that thing and went, why on earth would anyone carry around a phone that big? That's all I'm saying. And why would anybody carry around one of these from Apple like it's a smartphone when you can get a BlackBerry? That was the other thing people said a lot when the iPhone came out. So,
yeah,
there were a lot of people that didn't say those things too.
Yeah.
It's
Brian,
is loud.
Brian, bring up your comment about developers, because I think that's an interesting one.
Well, I was just thinking, a lot of times we're thinking, what are these amazing things that Apple's done for the Vision Pro? And if thinking back to the iPhone, it was brought up earlier how the App Store didn't exist when it was first launched. And look at the amazing things that have been developed over the years, that it wasn't necessarily Apple that did it, but, like the tools, the kits and stuff that allowed for it to take place, but just stuff that wasn't even imagined when it was first introduced. You could think of just the opportunities that could exist that weren't obviously highlighted because they don't exist yet. And with those tools, what can exist in the future? Once people get their hands on it and start using it and saying, oh, I could do this, that, and the other, and opportunities to make money and all sorts of things. Yeah.
As a coincidence, we have a real live developer here with us, among us. Jim, yeah. And Jim, as soon as you find them, let us know, and then we'll.
I'd like to meet this person.
Yeah. What are you hearing? I know you're hanging out, doing a lot more of the WWDC thing as it should be done by a developer. You're also seeing a lot of developer comments come across Mastodon. What are you seeing here? Are folks excited about this? Are they skeptical? A little bit of both.
It looks like more on the excited part, I think. I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage because I did have a personal task that took up almost all of today. So I'm a little bit behind. But from what I have gotten to see, it looks like there's a lot of excitement.
That's good to hear. I mean, because I think there should be. And I'm not a developer. and sort of what Brian said, different people think about things that I probably will find indispensable as soon as I see them, but I'm not smart enough to know what they are. Dave, I want to get you in on this from a different angle. In the MacVoices Slack today, our friend Frank Petrie, who was not here with us tonight, but he's hanging in there, and he's participating a lot more there. He had brought up something about he hopes that we'll get to virtual travel agencies so that folks can maybe go places virtually that they can't physically. And I thought, okay, that's great, and that's certainly an option. But I keep thinking that we need to think beyond what up till now we've thought of as a VR experience or even an AR experience, and think of more as Apple. I mean, I hate to be an Apple fanboy, but spatial computing, as to what spatial computing means beyond just being a glorified movie viewer or something of that nature.
Well, I mean, I did. That was a good comment that Frank gave, and yeah, there's a lot of people. I mean, unfortunately, in his condition, he's going to have a tough time doing any traveling, and others are like that too with their physical limitations of traveling. So why not be immersed into being in a place that you can feel and actually touch and have the sensory of being able to do that. I think what is going to mean to me as a game changer is we're so used to sitting in front of this screen all the time, whether it be your laptop or a screen at your desk or wherever. Now you aren't going to have to do that when you use these glasses, because you're going to be able to immerse yourself without the need of any screens at all. It could be a nice big 100-inch screen if you want to have virtual keyboards and be able to immerse yourself into the work that you need to get done at your computer. Most of us here are sitting in front of a computer for a lot of, good periods of time, and that could, I think that in itself is going to be a kind of a game changer. I agree with you with the entertainment kind of stuff you're dealing with. Yeah, I mean, it's fun and all, just like we went to a theater and the 3D thing, which was a joke. We talked about that. But being able to watch anything in the entertainment world, with Disney Plus is going to be on board, and the gaming, that's going to be another good experience, I bet. So there's just so much flexibility with this. I started at the beginning. This is a version 1.0 type of device, but Apple's come a long way with this. I mean, just from what we've seen so far and what we're hearing from from the influencers and journalists, that what they've saw. So.
I think that Frank is really onto something with that idea. And I was kind of on the road, so I didn't comment in the Slack when that came up. But I already kind of, I feel that way about YouTube already. I watch a ton, and my wife too. My wife and I watch a ton of travel videos, and I feel like I've been to a lot of these places, and also Street View. Like now, when I'm going to go someplace, I'll go and get on Street View and look around. And so when I actually go there, it's like, oh, I've already got an idea of what the lay of the land is.
Right.
Well, wouldn't that data set would be even with what they have now, probably without even having to go out and do more camera stuff, they've already got all this 360 footage. Wouldn't it be cool if you could just, go out with Street View and look around with your headset? I think that could be a really big application.
Yeah, it's traveling there without being there.
Yeah, I mean, I take nothing away from the concept. It's just that it seems like that's something that VR, so many different R's. VR has sort of talked about already, and I guess I'm trying to get to that point. Maybe, Jim, I'm trying to think like a developer. Like, if I have this, what can I do with it beyond what feels like it's kind of the obvious? And that's where I'm intrigued by
the obvious. We haven't really done the obvious yet. Maybe we should. Let's not dismiss the obvious, because
fair point.
We haven't gotten there yet.
Fair point. I want to make sure we hit some of the other things, because obviously the Vision Pro is the thing that was grabbing everyone's attention. But I mean, we got new Macs. We talked about some of that last night. Mike Potter sent an email to me that was surprising, and I didn't have a chance to follow up on it. But he said that the new Mac Pro includes even internal SATA ports.
Yeah.
Which
yes.
So, again, we would get into that.
Why wouldn't it?
Well, I agree, Jim, but I guess the point is that Apple really has been listening to what developers are saying they want, and they want expandability inside the machine. And
well,
got a
there was I had to do 2.5 hours of driving today, so one plus was I got to listen to 1/3 of Accidental Tech Podcast. Because their episode yesterday is 3.5 hours long, and
so you're almost through Syracuse's opening statement. Then I'm guessing. Hi, John.
So they had like 45-minute discussion about the Mac Pro, and I thought John Syracuse's thoughts were exactly what I thought about it, which is, kind of like, why does this machine exist? It's, and I do think that it's kind of, let's hope it's a placeholder, because it doesn't support GPUs, and which we talked, I think, yesterday a bit about, not having big RAM, but I think the GPU thing is probably a bigger issue. And one thing I wasn't sure about until I listened to their discussion is, in spite of Apple's talk about, it's got 7, what are those cards called in it?
PCIe.
Apparently
PCIe slot.
No, not that.
The afterburner.
The afterburners.
Yeah, afterburner cards. Yeah. So apparently it's still like really, doesn't hold a candle to PC GPU, high-end GPU cards, and not even close. So it's not going to work for that kind of market. So basically, like, it's a Mac Studio that you can put SATA, you can put hard drives in it, and you can put some more I/O cards in it, like add more audio ports or Thunderbolts, and for that privilege you'll pay $3,000. Well, how many people are going to want to pay $3,000 so they can put drives inside the machine? Or not that there'll be none, but what I kind of think is, I think that so because it has no better performance than a Mac Studio. There's nothing that you can do with the Mac Pro that you couldn't also do exactly the same with the Mac Studio. So I think that it probably didn't cost Apple much to make the Mac Studio. The case is exactly the same. By the way, the wheels do work you can take the wheels off of your old one and put it onto this one. They're compatible. Everything about the case is the same. They've got this giant fan ventilation system that's designed to be stuffed full of GPUs. So it's probably going to just spin there, idling, because it's got nothing to do. But I think Apple didn't want to have the optics of dropping that case. And maybe when the M3 or the M4 comes out, all the rumors are that they were going to do a double Ultra, I guess, and, have 4 of them instead of just 2. And apparently that didn't work out, either technically or maybe economically. So that would, both. Then that could, or both, kind of the same thing, really. So maybe in a year or 2 years, they'll be able to make a Mac Pro that has quad, and the GPU is competitive, and we'll get it up to 500 gigabytes of RAM or something. But the machine that's there now is like most people either they need something more, and so they're going to have to not use a Mac, or why not use Mac Studio and save $3,000?
Jeff, you have a question about GPUs.
I do. Is there anything that's preventing the companies that make the GPU cards from writing drivers so that you can use them in the PCI slots?
Apple.
Yeah.
So they are
it's more than that. It's
blocking.
No. It's the way that Apple Silicon works. It's completely different. It's not designed to have that external. It's designed, to have that. So it's not just a question of a driver. It's a whole architecture. It's basically they'd have to build this completely. They've got the thing that's already there for the built-in, and they'd have to do it that all over again. So it would be major. And, I think Apple probably correctly said, we're not going to do that for 500 customers or whatever it is. And I guess also additionally from what Syracuse was saying, since it's not because if you could do that, you could also do eGPUs, but the architecture just, doesn't allow that. So the Intel architecture was designed with that idea. But Apple Silicon was not designed with that idea. On the other hand, and the point that I don't remember was John was making it or something else, but what Apple Silicon has done is it has cut off the very, very high end. So with the Apple Silicon, it is not able to go up to that super high end that you can go with Xeons and with these external, with the architecture and basically all the computers in the past were designed with that. But what Apple Silicon has done is raise the floor so high to where, a lot of people that 10 years ago needed a Mac Pro, they could do that work with a MacBook Air now. Right? So overall, the bulk of, the community is so much better off. But there is this tiny sliver that, it's not as good. That's engineering. There's always trade-offs and compromises. And so...
Look, there's always somebody that's not going to be happy. The computer that you built doesn't do what I want, and now I'm mad about it because reasons. Always
it's a personal assault.
There's always somebody that's finna be mad about it in whatever fashion that takes. And until a person who has an Intel Mac Pro, and Chuck, I'm going to go ahead and speak for you. If you are this person, please come on the show because I have so many questions for you, and I will give them all to Chuck via email ahead of time. Come on here and tell me what it is that you are doing that having Apple Silicon in a Mac Pro is preventing you from doing, that you can do with an Intel cheese grater that you cannot do with the one they just announced. And I'm not saying this because I need someone to prove it to me. I am genuinely interested in what those limitations are. And if it's this company that makes this unbelievably specific piece of software isn't interested in developing for anything but Intel hardware, that is 100% an acceptable thing. I just want to know if that's what it is. That's really all I want to know, because I have yet to find the person who says, I am the person with an Intel machine who cannot upgrade to anything else, and here is why.
Well,
I have not found that person.
Syracuse
I have been looking.
Syracuse mentioned, probably the biggest case, gaming. So it just won't drive the number of of frames.
Machine.
Okay, I adore Syracuse. He has been known to associate with me in public on a number of occasions, and I am here to tell you that if you are going to try to put Apple and gaming in the same sentence with a straight face in the year of our Lord 2023, my friend, and I say this with love, are absolutely mistaken. No. Because
wait, Kelly,
Apple has watched it go by for years and years and years. Apple built a device that I hook to a TV and they can't put a good game on it. They can't. They haven't. They're not.
Okay.
No,
that's enough.
Because I'm so tired of people saying, "Oh, it's a gaming machine." Gaming machine is not the question here. No,
it's not a gaming machine. That's the point. And that, you ask, what could it do? What could it not do?
Right.
That an Intel machine with a high-end GPU can do.
So far, the only thing I know for certain is Boot Camp, where you can get right down to the metal on a processor. That's the only thing I know.
High-end gaming. And as you said, I'll try to say it a little more calmly. Yes, Apple doesn't give a shit whether high-end games work. And, this is just more evidence of that. But, there.
It's not like they haven't tried, but there's also probably failed.
Like some statistical, people doing things in R and,
what I want is
huge data sets and stuff like that. I don't think
somebody who works with gigabytes of data. That person I want to talk to. The people modeling like black holes and things like that. If those people are the people who can't do this, I want to know. Now, there's probably like 10 of them, and I understand why maybe they can't upgrade. But I would really be curious to find that person. It is not gamers. It was never gamers.
Guys,
it's never going to be gamers. And
I'm going to shut this. I'm going to shut this down because we're talking about things that don't relate to our audience and don't relate to us mere mortals, except maybe some of the high-end gamers, and they're going to build their own machines anyway. So let's move away from that and go on, because we have so much positive stuff to talk about. And, the fact that we're talking about these marginal things is just ridiculous. Let's move over to iOS 17. And David, I'm going to shift over to you to see if there's anything that really jumped out at you that we missed last night or maybe didn't hit hard enough.
For as much time as I've had to take a look at it, other than what we really talked about last night, there really hasn't been a ton that caught my eye just yet. You catch me in another day or two, I probably would give you. I'm just look here real quick on my notes here, but they did do some good things. I mean, I think a lot of the changes with phone messages and FaceTime, I think, really is the biggest standout thing that I've really seen on this. But again, there's just so much other stuff that has been talked about, and I think it's something we definitely need to look at. Unless somebody else caught it, you probably can jump on some of their things. But I've seen a lot of stuff already that I haven't had a chance to look at.
Webb, were you?
Yeah, I was just I'm cheating. I'm looking at Macworld page. Okay, so it's not like I memorized all this, but I thought some other things. I thought the FaceTime messaging is kind of interesting. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the live voicemail I thought was kind of interesting too. We talked last night about standby. I think I use that on my watch. I have my watch charging on my nightstand. And that's especially helpful when I travel. Let's see, contact posters was one of the other new things. I did want to ask, and maybe, Brittany, you don't have an opinion on this. There was a lot of early chatter about what became known as Journal in iOS 17, which is kind of the journaling app. And I don't know if, Brittany, you've, in the nature of your work, whether journaling is something that you recommend or people do, or maybe I'm just totally off base, but
I'm super interested. I'm sad it's not in the beta yet, because that was the first thing I tried to find to open, and then I realized it wasn't there yet. No, I think it's really got some cool potential, but especially the part that automates stuff and suggests it to you, where you don't have to necessarily correlate these things yourself. That I'm really excited to try it personally. And if for no other reason than like, how many people do I work with who are like, oh yeah, I'd love to journal, but just the decision fatigue of picking what you use and how. So many people never get started. And by having a default one, you've got a place to start. Then if they want to grow up and graduate and go to day one or something, great. But I've had the same issues. So I really want to try a default app. and see how it goes.
I did think it was really disappointing that it's not on the Mac.
Yes.
And
is it on iPad?
You know, they've got this whole. I think so, but it's on iOS, but not on Mac OS, and it seems so odd because Apple is, you know, pushing this whole cross-platform, and you know, we've got Swift, so you know, hey, developers, know, you know, you can easily do all platforms, but it's like do as we say, not as we do.
Well, I actually can kind of get it because a lot of the apps that they're talking about grabbing from an API and grabbing data from to possibly put into the journaling app, a lot of those developers don't bother to put it on Mac. So then you'd end up not having a complete picture, as complete of options as you would have from, say, your phone, if that's where all the apps are.
Well, but I'm imagining at least I should be able to view it on the Mac and maybe edit it. And, you know, I mean, I like, you know, when it gets to writing, if it's more than a tweet or a toot, you know, I tend to want to get my Mac out, you know, with my big screen and my big keyboard. And
that's true,
you know,
for a small percentage of population. I would bet that this is not a representative group of the population at large who mostly get out their phone. My dad can't even tell you if his computer has a battery in it currently, although odds are no, it doesn't.
And Brittany, and first of all, welcome. I didn't get a chance to welcome you. You snuck in on me. I think, you know, I think you just hit it. I mean, this look around the age of this group, and I think you're right. We're not the target market for this. I think the target market is for the generation that grew up with an iPhone in their hand. I mean, I still,
or the people who've abandoned computers because they just don't compute that much. Part of the reason we're not representative is not age alone, because my dad, I think, is older than everybody on here. But it's also like, who still uses a computer regularly for day-to-day tasks? And it's this panel disproportionate to the population at large.
Okay, but notes is on everything, messages is on everything.
I think they should have a view only.
Mail is
I
on
do.
Everything.
But I think it would be
app is on everything. And
it would be confusing to have it be the data entry one when you're like, wait, why isn't all my data here?
But why would it be only one thing? I'm assuming that would be all done through iCloud. And, you know, everything shows up.
No, it's on device. If it's on device, it's on device. So only the apps that are on this device, this one device I'm looking at right now, only those have access to those suggestions.
MacVoices is supported by Kolide at kolide.com/MacVoices. Clicking on the wrong link can cause you plenty of headaches if it's just you. But if it's your company, the possibility of clicking a wrong link is multiplied by the number of users, right along with the headaches. Your users don't mean to create a problem, but they have other things on their priority list. That's why Kolide works so well for Okta users. You can get your entire fleet to 100% compliance. If a device isn't compliant and tries to log in, it can't. The user is provided with the information on what needs to be done. If they do it, great. If not, they're blocked. Immediate, helpful device compliance that secures your company. Without Kolide, there's nothing to stop an unsecure device. With Kolide, unsecure devices don't have a chance to cause issues. And this is all built to work seamlessly with Okta. Zero trust architecture and 100% device compliance. That means fewer support tickets and less frustration all around. Just what the doctor ordered. Visit kolide.com/MacVoices to learn more or book a demo. That's Kolide, KOLIDE.com/MacVoices. Kolide.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Kolide for supporting MacVoices. Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by HelloFresh. Go to hellofresh.com/MacVoices16 and use the code MacVoices16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. Figuring out what's for dinner is not at the top of anyone's summer activity wish list. HelloFresh delivers mouthwatering, chef-crafted recipes and fresh ingredients to your door so you can spend your summer doing, well, whatever you want. But HelloFresh doesn't just solve your dinner time challenges. Did you know they also have new snacks, meals, and more to add to your weekly order? Like their fun s'mores bundle for the kids. And who doesn't love s'mores? And no matter what your lifestyle, HelloFresh has you covered with delicious recipes on the menu, like pescatarian and veggie. You can even swap proteins and sides to make a recipe just how you like it. It's all about you, and that's how it should be. Go to hellofresh.com/MacVoices16 and use the code MacVoices16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. That's hellofresh.com/MacVoices16 and the code MacVoices16 to score 16 free meals plus free shipping. Find out just how convenient and just plain good HelloFresh is. Thanks to HelloFresh for supporting this week's MacVoices.
I think it falls a little bit more under the health section of stuff, which you mostly can't get on your Mac, and you can't even back up unless you're encrypting, because all that stuff is supposed to be deeply personal and private and just for you and you alone and not anybody else who is not you. So I think that's part of it. But also, I think it's also the ease of it, because you can type, Jim, you can add stuff if you want to, but you can also just slide the little thing and go like, today was all right. Today, not so much. Today, pretty awesome. And if you want to add later, I got to go see Duran Duran in concert, then you can add that, but you don't have to. And I think it's the interaction of it is primarily touch based, is what we saw. But also, if you think back to like 15 minutes ago, we were talking about 1.0. And this is the first iteration of this app, and it's going to get refined and get better. I mean, you didn't have notes everywhere to start with. You didn't have, freeform or whatever it is, like only came last year. Maybe it might have been like earlier this year.
It came last year on everything. It came,
okay.
But it was cross-platform from the start. Yeah.
But not everything is. Like Notes wasn't, to start with. Like there's a lot of things that were not everywhere from the get-go, and this may be one of those. So, and there's nothing to say that you can't be doing that already. I really like Brittany's assessment of it, in that, it gives you kind of a prompt already. So answer a question or two and you're done, and then that's all you have to do.
But also, as Kelly said, or excuse me, as Brittany said, it's not even in the beta yet. So we don't know exactly what its capabilities are, what the export capabilities might be. I mean, that's not the same as syncing. I give you that, Jim. But, listen, Notes was that way for a while. And, there are a lot of things that didn't come out just fully formed on all the platforms. So,
but let me just say, from my point of view as a developer, Apple, and each year it gets more and more and more. You're talking about Notes, what is in all platforms? Well, that was 6-7 years ago. Okay. Apple's story now is, we've got Swift UI, we've got Swift and Swift UI. They're on every platform, write once, deploy everywhere. This is the way, don't make things that are for one platform. And then they're like, so they're telling developers, this is how to do it. But don't look at what we're doing.
They will get more complaints about having a partially functional journal app on the Mac than they will about not having one.
It's much better. I agree. I mean, we're back to the discussion of
this is just customer service 101. It's better to not offer a thing than to not offer it all the way all the time and be totally sure it's going to be there.
Yep. Nailed it.
Don't take the cake out of the oven before it's done, please. Okay, so Brian said something in the chat room I have not seen at all. And Brian, you may have just be speaking my language with what you said. So tell us that, because I got to go look for this.
Yeah, I saw this on an article. I think, let me find the original source. It was republished on MSN TechCrunch. I was just looking through some of the features of iOS 17 that weren't necessarily in the keynote, but I was just kind of looking through, and there's a couple of really useful ones that I'm really excited to try. One is the offline maps. Just, man, what an awesome feature, and finally having that. I love using Apple Maps when I drive around. And if I go to a rural part of the state, there's not reception. And I'm stuck using the Google Maps. And, it is what it is. And they offer offline maps. And so for part of the trip, that's what works. And so having that is awesome. So that's one really exciting thing that I'm looking forward to on the next road trip. And then the other one I just read about was the Kanban columns. I don't know if it was in reminders or notes, but that ability to create a few columns so you can say a project of, like not yet started, in progress, and completed. I love doing that, moving around columns and doing repetitive tasks in that way. And I thought that's great, being able to have that available. And if it's on the reminders, or I guess even on the notes, hopefully that'll show up maybe on the Mac version too, if that note, or reminder is synced. So that'll be interesting. That'll be really, really cool to see. So.
Yeah, the Kanban columns, I had not seen anything about that. So I'm in fact, I'm Googling it now, trying to find, anything, because that would be very exciting.
I think it's reminders on iPad.
Okay.
I think.
That's all right.
Because I remember seeing column view about that, and I think that was a thing. I was reading Dan Morin's column earlier about stuff that got sort of released but not announced, and that was one of the ones that I remember seeing was reminders on iPad will have a column view option. So I'm looking forward to that.
I like that a lot. Anybody excited over? Excited might not be the right word, but I'll go.
Oh, we're all very passionate. So excited is completely fine.
I don't know if you've noticed, Chuck.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, Kelly, over the idea of using continuity camera with your Apple TV.
Yes,
I like it. I think it's going to be
wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that just seemed like such a natural thing. And I know David and I both have had some experience setting up conference rooms with, the cameras and all. And I'm thinking,
right.
God, if they could do that with an iPhone, and you have all the give you access to all the zooms on this current iPhones, that would solve a lot of problems in those areas.
Yeah,
I can't wait to be on this panel for my Apple TV.
Yes, right from your couch.
Yeah,
I like to see more of what the security part of it is going to be, because working in enterprise, that's what you got to be concerned about. Is, are they going to allow you to take your iPhone and be able to use it as a camera on their network using an Apple TV? Because a lot of companies are pretty restrictive of doing that, but a lot of companies are also very open on it too. I think Apple TV in itself is a relatively good secure platform. You can keep it controlled. A lot of companies are using Jamf to control what Apple TVs, and it can be locked down, which is good. But I'd be concerned to see what the reaction is in the information security community, to see where is that iPhone going to be a secure device that can be allowed to be connected to an Apple TV on a corporate network.
I think the nuts and bolts of how continuity camera actually works are going to be part of what dictate that, because at my day job, we have places where it wouldn't be a big deal at all if somebody wanted to come in and use their phone as continuity camera, because we set up a lot of Apple TVs with flat displays for conference rooms instead of having projectors anymore. A lot of places have just evolved, and where I'm at, it's Apple TV is a lot of what we do, and so we have places where it would be no problem at all if somebody wanted to take their phone. We have places where people are issued work phones anyway, so if they take that company issued phone into a conference room with a company owned Apple TV and want to set it up, maybe that's a piece of cake. So once we find out a little more about like what communication is needed and that kind of stuff, I'm also excited about it, because one of the things that is really hard to do in a lot of conference rooms is get a camera that will allow you, because when I saw this, the first thing I thought was, duh, why haven't we seen this already? And then I remembered we haven't had continuity camera all that long, so that might be why.
Right,
and then
right.
I'm thinking of the next of like, the way down the road of this, where you can set up, multicam, and then, like you have each half of a conference room that's looking at one camera, so that you can see everybody, you can see the people that are talking more easily, instead of having to have the one camera way up by the TV, and now everybody has to shout, or you have to spend a lot of money on the audio so that everybody can be heard reasonably when they're sitting at a conference room table. And so I'm really looking forward to that piece and finding out what that's going to look like. And as soon as they showed that, I already was making a list of, here are the places that I want to go find out. I want to go ask them, like, can we try this in your conference room and see how it works? Once things are nailed down a little better and the edges aren't quite so sharp on these betas, I really want to get a chance to try it out somewhere and see what it's going to be like in practical terms in a conference room. Because at home on the other side of this wall with my nice big TV and my nice phone and all of that, it's probably going to be a pretty solid experience. But I really want to know what that's going to look like on the enterprise level.
Dave, expound on that just a little bit, though. Are you talking about potential security issues with connecting it to the company network, or are you talking about the potential privacy of the content that is being discussed?
I'm more concerned. I think I'd be more concerned about the connectivity between the camera and the Apple TV. Is it going to stay secure? I mean, I think it's going to be okay, but I just know, working with information security teams, they scrutinize every little thing up, down, left, and right, and this is something I don't know if they'll open the protocol, depending on the company, to allow the camera to be connected to the device. We've got I've set up cameras that are in the conference room. That should be sufficient, and that's the problem. If you're going to utilize an Apple TV, you can't have a camera like that, which is a USB based or a network based, local network based type of setup. That they may question it.
I have places where where you're not allowed to plug a thumb drive in to a computer. Absolutely no external device. Secure SCIF, is that what they call it? Secure, and the thing where you can't even take your phone in with you because
SCIF.
Yeah, that.
I forget what it's called, but
I keep wanting to call it SCIF, and I know that's wrong. But that, like those are some of the places that we work with. So that's why I really want to find out the parameters on it, because there are places where, no matter how benevolent that connection is, it's still not going to be allowed. And but on the other hand, like maybe we could still come out ahead if all we have to do is buy a decent iPhone to put in a conference room as a camera.
Well, and I'm thinking about, okay, you've got security. If you, I'm not going to speak to the network part, but if you're worried about what is being discussed going back and forth, we're talking about Apple here and Apple's protocols, as opposed to Microsoft's, and opposed to Zoom's, and there's some other things that have been breached, and I don't know. I don't recall ever having heard of FaceTime being breached. Now I know it's not being used in the corporate environment, but
I was going to say that.
Yeah,
we don't use FaceTime corporately. We predominantly use Teams as a Microsoft company. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, is that because FaceTime doesn't have the feature set that you're looking for, or is it just
I think the biggest thing is that FaceTime is very proprietary, and not everybody is going to be using an Apple product in my world.
It's gotten better, but it's still protected.
It's gotten better, but and the continuity camera is kind of a separate issue. If I remember properly, continuity camera on is, how am I trying to say this? They pointed out several times during the keynote that you could use other platforms. You could use Zoom or Teams and WebEx. I remember that there was one thing when they were talking about just the video camera type functionality that Teams was not on one, and I can't remember which one it was. It could have been. I don't remember what it was.
That's up to Microsoft, isn't it?
Yeah.
Probably.
I mean, people are setting up Microsoft Teams rooms devices in hybrid conference rooms. They're connecting. I mean, Logitech Rally Cams. You're talking about $1,200 systems that run on a private network that communicates to the Microsoft Teams device. They've got Logitech Scribe. I just was demoing that today, where what that camera does is it beams a whiteboard right into the Teams meeting, and the whiteboard that's live in the room, and people can go on the whiteboard and actually start writing things up, and you can get that right there. So those are the types of things. I bring that up only because they're secure, because they're staying within the network on those particular devices. In that case, but the other thing I was going to talk about is, as far as continuity camera, continuity camera on a Mac will only work currently if you're going through an iCloud account. I mean, you can't just connect it and say, "Hey, it works." So that in itself, most companies don't allow you to be signing in with your personal iCloud account to get that connected. Now, if there's a corporate way of doing it, maybe. I haven't experienced using this yet. Obviously, we have to see where this is going to go on the Apple TV. Is it going to require the iCloud account? It may require that on the Apple TV too. I'd be curious. I've got the Apple TV running on beta. I don't know if it works yet, but I might want to try it. See what you have to do. But I'm pretty sure you have to be signed into an iCloud account in order to do it.
Can we spend a second on the Apple TV getting a top level mention at the WWDC keynote? Because that really doesn't happen all that much. We get a lot of there's TV and it's amazing, but we don't get.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it in September.
Right.
Yeah.
And tell you.
Well,
later.
and not just a top level mention, but something really cool.
Yeah. Like something that I think a lot of people are going to a lot of regular people are going to use. It's not necessarily a very specific use case. It's not, it's you ever tried to get a FaceTime call on the Apple TV so that you could see the person better? Probably everybody has tried that at some point. So it was really nice to see it as one of those obvious features. This is the kind of thing that comes out of continuity camera is pretty awesome. What if we could do it with an even bigger screen than that display that we, than that ridiculously expensive display we sell? If you want to spend $5,000 on a screen and you want it to be a 4K television as opposed to the monitor that you hook to your Mac Studio, then have we got a deal for you? Get yourself an Apple TV and you can go FaceTime to your heart's content. This is the kind of this is a very classic Apple thing to me. This is obviously the next iteration of what continuity camera was meant to do.
Yeah, to me, it goes even beyond that. FaceTime is the obvious thing, but the fact that there's a developer story and they specifically called out Zoom and other services are going to be available, I was just like, whoa, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, that's definitely that's the other part that was nice, was the recognition that Apple's not the only game in town. They used to be really good about that, and then they got a little closed off about a lot of things, and now a lot of stuff is coming back because we saw a lot of things that are cool that then also there's a kit for it now so that other people can hook into that same sort of technology to take the idea that Apple has of continuity camera, or I think the journaling, there's a journal kit. I know we don't have it yet, but there's an opportunity for others to kind of get in on that game. And I'm really interested to see where some of that stuff goes. But that was kind of an overall theme from yesterday was, and also you can do it with this other stuff, or we're going to make this available to developers so other people can do it too. It was nice to see.
Well, that thing and Barry brought it up in the chat, and I forgot what they called it. If they called it something, where you can do the video effects, putting you into the presentation in a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting.
Teams does it too, overlay.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And to Kelly's point, it's not just within FaceTime, so you have to use, their product. They're putting it in and integrating it with other popular things out there, which is going to make somebody turn around on the Windows side and say, how did you do that?
Right. Well, this is going to sell Apple TVs because, the whole Apple TV, it's too expensive. Why don't I just buy a Roku or a Chrome stick for, a third of the price? well, here's a real reason. None of those do that, right? Nobody else has anything like this, right?
No.
So this is actually, they're really leveraging, like, now here's a real sales, unique selling proposition for why you should have an Apple TV.
Yeah. Plus, Apple just dropped the price on the Apple TV $50.
They did?
Right.
Yeah, last fall when they introduced the current generation.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I thought you meant they did it again.
Well,
Yeah,
the top end Apple TV now is like the full price $149. That's the 128. That has the Ethernet.
It's still way more than Roku's and Chrome sticks.
Of course,
but
I mean there's
now there's like this is a real. Hey, here's a real thing I'm getting.
Yeah, a concrete thing to point to, because it can be your resident smart home hub is a very hand wavy thing that does not appear to people in practical terms very easily. Trust me, as a person who's tried to explain it, it sucks rocks to try and tell people why it's cool. Right. So having something like this, now you can FaceTime on the TV is absolutely going to make my in-laws buy a new Apple TV. No question.
I said we were going to try to hold this show down since it's part 2 of 2, and we're already a little over time. But Barry, I've not done as good a job as I wanted to with keeping the chat engaged. Barry did say a little while ago, though, emoji tapbacks and stickers and messages. Yeah. Jeff, are you going to be resurrecting your sticker pack?
That's a good question.
That's why I'm the host.
Okay. Let me look into that. Okay. So instead of giving you straight up yes, there's some behind the scenes logistics that I need to sort out. As long as those sort out, then the answer is it'll be back.
Okay. So I've not being fair to the folks. So tell us what sticker packs you had and what happened to them.
What? Oh, holy crap. I forgot the name of my sticker packs.
Oh, wow.
Anyhow, they were drawings that I made. It was just fun space kind of things. And I did 2 versions, one where they were in color, one where they're just outlines. And they were just a lot of fun. And the only reason they're not available now is because, like so many sticker packs, there was no reason to make changes once they were done. So when Apple did their purge of what they considered dead apps, that included sticker packs. So a lot of really good sticker packs just disappeared. Here's the irony for me. I don't even have my own sticker pack on my phone because when I did a reset at one point, for some reason the sticker pack didn't show back up, and now I can't download it.
Well, sounds like a time for a new sticker pack.
Yeah, they're just so fast to whip out. I'll get right on it.
Because you have nothing else to do, Jeff.
Right.
And I did want to acknowledge Barry's agreement with Jim on the journaling comment about being cross device. And listen, I agree with it, but I think Brittany hit it. I think that it is targeted at a group that is not necessarily here, at least not in this form. And so, will we see it in another form a little later? I don't know.
Since you brought it up again, I'm still hoping someday that the health app will be on macOS. They did bring it to iPad now, finally.
Yep.
And I want that on the Mac. I want that data on the Mac.
Jim,
I understand that I can't collect the data on the Mac, but I want to, if I've got some chart on there, and it's like this tiny little chart on my phone, I want to bring it on here. I want to be able to export it to my doctor or whatever. It's my data. I want it where I want it.
Yeah,
I want to bring it into a Panorama database.
Yeah. A what?
Sounds like it's time for you to write new API, Jim.
Have you heard there's this new journal kit available?
Yeah. I can think of some reasons maybe not to bring it to the Mac, at least not yet. And frankly, if we're doing a wish list, I want a health app that integrates medical records and medical histories in some standardized form, so that every time you go to a new doctor, you don't have to spend an hour filling out this on their forms. I just would love
what? Did you know it does integrate with like the labs? Like all my lab reports show up in
Mine
health.
too. Yeah.
Mhm.
I didn't even know that until recently. A friend of mine mentioned it, and I was like, I went and looked in the health app, and I was like, holy shoot! My last 4 years of Quest lab results are all in there, and it's actually a nicer format than on the Quest website. See that on the Mac
One
too.
of my doctor's offices uses my chart. And if you go walk through the health stuff and set up my chart, I've had the health app tell me you have a test result before I got the message from my doctor's office that says we have your test results for you. So especially if you have a care provider that uses electronic records and it's one that Apple Health supports, and they seem to support a lot of them, then you can walk through and get all that stuff set up and connected. And then it also helps, like if you use the ECG on your watch and do those because you're having an issue or something, you can always do that. And it's one of those things that doesn't get enough attention because it's generally part of watchOS stuff, but they don't really talk about the health app part of watchOS that you really do other places, like mostly like managing that and everything. You have to set it up and connect it on your phone and all that kind of stuff. So if you spend a few minutes poking around in health, who knows what you will find, because there's all kinds of really interesting things in there. Like I got all my parents set up with their medical records on their phones. Do you have to log into a web page to go get stuff from your doctor? Yeah. Okay. Let's put it on your phone. So you have all of it in one place, and it makes it so much easier because everything is there, especially if you have like specialists for different things, or, if, anymore, it seems like all of us have more than one doctor we go to for something, and having all of it in a central location where you can get to all of it is super duper great.
Yeah, agreed. Guys, since we're short of the normal time, but we're over our proposed time for this. So one last thing, and that is did we miss any significant features? I mean, and significant is in the eye of the beholder. Yeah, I know let's not go down that path. But anything we should have touched on? What?
Dave had one.
Oh, Dave has one?
Well, the AirPods. I think
yes.
The adaptive audio I thought was really impressive. Mm-hmm. Being able to blend the audio with the transparent active noise cancellation, and then the noise experience moving between your environments I thought that was a really cool thing that they added. And also adding they've improved, which is huge, because it drives me nuts, is switching devices without missing a beat. And the updates to auto switching, because it drives me crazy. Every time you pick up your iPhone, you look at an iPad, if your Apple TV's on, it's like your AirPods are connected. What? And I'm like freaking out. If I'm at a meeting, I don't want it to disconnect from my Mac. So I think they've done some improvements on that. And they also have improved on the muting and unmuting yourself on a call, where they've improved that as well. So of course this only applies to the AirPods Pro 2. So so if you have older AirPods, that's not going to apply.
Yeah. Good point. Thank you, David. Yeah.
The new improvements to AirDrop look awesome. Yeah. And I'm hoping that means that I'll actually get AirDrop to work more than 1 in 10 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelly had one too.
Words.
Okay. Say what?
Birds?
Passwords.
Oh,
passwords.
Yes.
Passwords. All the new, and okay, so 2 things. First of all the new password stuff, like when they email you a code, you can do the same thing. You'll be able to do the same thing that you can do with a text message, where it goes, hey, you got an email from them, and I'm gonna just pop it in here for you. Mm-hmm. Hallelujah. Number 1. Number 2, so like they've done that. You can share passwords with other people in your family, which is also super amazing. But also, even though they didn't really mention that stuff, like you kind of saw it for a second, like on the little infographic panel that they had behind them, and they didn't really talk about it, which bums me out. I'm hoping it comes with like more information this fall. But then Ricky Mondello, who works on the password stuff, went on Mastodon and said, I can't wait until, first of all, hi, Ricky. Second of all, he said, I can't wait until all of you find all the secret stuff. They didn't talk about all of the things that are coming, and I can't wait until people poke around in the betas and discover all of the happy things that are there. And so I'm super pumped to find out what else is in there that we don't even know about yet that's coming. Yep. And that's just going to be better and better and better all the time.
Kelly, I'll tell you one thing that's in there. Not only is it password sharing, it's pass keys sharing.
Yeah.
As well as family shared passkeys.
Yep.
Ooh.
Which is going to be awesome. As soon as people start using passkeys, it's going to be great. There's not a lot for it now, but like, you know, the TOTP codes and that kind of stuff being something you can do. You know, the hope I had, and we haven't seen it yet, is that Passwords breaks out into its own app instead of just being part of the settings app, so that you can do a little bit more managing of it a little bit better on a mobile device than you can now. That's still my hope, and I'm assuming that's going to come with time. But that was the biggest thing that I thought didn't get anywhere near as much attention as it should have, because passwords are important. I mean, they had a whole section about it last year about introducing passkeys and why it's better and how passwordless is awesome. And that's the kind of stuff that I was really looking forward to finding out more about this year as they iterated, and they didn't talk about it. So I can't wait to dig into it and find out what we actually end up with. What else is in there that we didn't see that Ricky is alluding to.
Britt, you have your hand up like a respectful guest.
Thank you. Thank you.
Up?
Linking notes and interactive widgets are the ones.
Yeah, I was going to get that too.
So notes linking to each other where you can click the link and then it takes you to the correct note. Because I use a lot of Apple Notes with my collaborator.
Yep. Yeah. And Webb, I'm not sure I can even dignify your suggestion.
You know, I'm going to totally dignify his suggestion because it's actually really good. I mean, how many of us have? So Webb, tell people your suggestion, and then I will totally validate you.
If one of the features I talked about was photo albums for pets, and I said I'm excited because I have a fish, a goldfish. I used to have 2 goldfish, but now I just have 1. So
it better learn to recognize your goldfish. That's all I can say.
Yeah,
right.
Or else it's all crap. Yeah,
furry ones.
Now that you have, or you will have the ability to have the pets albums, you'll be able to fondly remember both fish, even though one has gone to the great fishbowl in the sky. Okay, here's why this is actually
it was more of a burial at sea, but I'll just leave it at that. So,
potato. This is actually a really good feature.
Look at Eric; he can't believe what he just heard. I love his reaction.
you, Eric, I would expect you to be anticipating stuff like this by now. All right. How many of us have pets? Seriously, how many of us have pets that are truly part of our family? Ben, right there. I have a cajillion photos of Cat on my phone. Before that, I have a cajillion photos of Nightshade. And when I'm going through the Photos app looking for stuff, I often come across a little cluster of photos of my my little fluff monster, and I stop and I look at these photos, and it just makes me so happy. This is a feature that a lot of people are really going to love, and it's really smart. And Webb, I'm so sorry about the loss of your fish.
Yeah,
it happens.
Yep. Yeah. Leo would like to meet the other one.
On that note, Britt had to go. She put something in the chat. She had to go right now. So I want to thank Brittany. And to do the roster again, Ben Roethig, Eric Bolden, Jim Ray, Jeff Gamet, Brian Flanigan-Arthurs, Webb Bixby, Kelly Guimont, and David Ginsburg. Thank you so much for the last 2 nights, last night and tonight, for the WWDC Keynote wrap-up. This has been first of all, it's been a whole lot of fun. Jim Ray had, when I proposed just doing 2 hours, one on each night, he said, how could we possibly get through everything? We can't. The good news is that we will be seeing a lot of these features, or we'll be learning more about them over the coming weeks and months, right, and we can address them a bit more fully. But right now, the idea was just to make sure that everything is in front of you and know what's going on out there.
So we're coming back tomorrow night, right?
No. We'll be back next Tuesday.
I'm free.
Yeah, normal time at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, whatever time that is, wherever you are, right here on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. And of course, the shows will always end up in the feeds for our friends who can't meet those time zone requirements. I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.